Welcome back to COVID Chats, everyone. My guest for today's show is Shai Tamary. Shai is the Acceleration Program Manager at NUMA New York. We discuss what it's like running a program for international startups in these trying times and other advice for fellow entrepreneurs. Now, on to episode 18 of COVID Chats. Hello, Shai, and welcome to episode 18 of COVID Chats.
Thank you so much.
It is great to have you with us today. I'm very excited. Of course, you are a former coworker of mine at NUMA New York, a fantastic startup accelerator in the Chelsea area of Manhattan. I have a ton of questions for you about that, about startup culture, but before we jump into that, I just want to know, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm keeping healthy. My family is healthy. And we're going with the flow and protecting ourselves.
That is good. I like that. That is concise and thoughtful at the same time.
Thanks so much, Ruben. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You are a champ. So you are working hard, despite, being down home with the parents. This morning you had a webinar on how to keep a remote work team engaged.
I did. Did you tune in?
I did not get a chance to tune in. I apologize. I know I should have. But in light of the fact that I didn't get a chance, I'm wondering, how did it go and what were some of the insights?
I think it went very well. So first of all, I'll give you some background for anybody watching that doesn't know what NUMA is. So NUMA is a global brand that started in Paris 20 years ago as the first startup accelerator in Paris, and has in the last 5 years operated in 8 different global geographies. Today, the 2 main offices are in New York and in Paris. Do you hear that background noise?
No, it's not. There was for a second, but don't worry about it. You're golden.
So, well, the thing is, we're living right now 6 people in this house, and my partner is in the other room, like right on the other side of this really thin wall. So, that's just been how it is, and trying to do conference calls at the same time and everything. But
somebody sneezes and you hear it from down the hall.
Yeah. So if you let me know if there's ever too much noise or anything, but
absolutely,
that might happen.
Will do.
So anyways, I was talking about NUMA New York. In our New York location, we have 3 main activities: startup acceleration for early and growth stage international startups expanding to the US, learning expeditions for corporates, and executive training programs. And I'm the acceleration program manager.
Thank you for that. Always love the background and the context. I know I always ask for that up front from my guests. So, I think it's great for the audience to just.
I don't even remember what the question was.
Yeah, I'm in the process of circling back to it. So the question is regarding the remote work webinar that you gave this morning. What were some of the insights? What was shared that was good?
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance.
So the webinar this morning was on how to keep your remote team engaged. So we shared many tips and tricks. My favorite was we actually did a mindfulness break in the middle of the webinar. And I put on some relaxing music and we did some breathing exercises, and it was really cool. Ruben, at NUMA, we're very experimental and we like to do some out of the box things. So that's one of the tricks that we've been implementing that really have been has helped our team, stay mindful, also have fun, and just
Totally.
shake things up a little bit.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Mindfulness, meditation, breathing practices, all these things were already good to do, but now they're even better to do, And, that's actually funny because that sort of hints at another question I had for you, which was that, have you had time to sort of internalize and contemplate all these crazy changes, or are you just too busy running the program and helping the founders?
Do you mean me on a personal level or in relation to the program? What do you mean?
Well, yeah, I guess you more on a personal level, but also I guess in terms, certainly in terms of the work, but I guess, I have more specific questions regarding that. So for this one, in light of, I know you've had the breathing practice on the webinar this morning, I mean, the mindfulness practice on the webinar this morning. So have you been able to do some of that yourself too?
Yeah,
Separately?
I've definitely been trying to have as much of a, like, I don't know, healthy routine in place. Whenever you move, or whenever you're not really in your home, and even though this is the home that I grew up in, it kind of shakes um, my routine that I'm used to, and all of a sudden I don't have control over many things. So I try to keep as much of my routine as I can. So I do yoga in the morning, and I have my tea, and little things that
Right.
are that like ground me a bit.
Mm. That's huge. I mean, that's fantastic. That's really great to hear. I'm glad you're doing those sorts of things. I've harped on it a little bit on this program, but a lot of people, which maybe it's their approach, but they've tried to just sort of keep themselves busy and pretend like something's just going on and it'll be over and we'll go back to normal. But I think it's so important to really, I was never somebody growing up who was so good at transitions, and this has been such a stark transition, that I'm glad I have those sorts of practices, yoga and tea and things that can ground you to help go through this. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a hard time, and without those, I'd be lost.
Yeah, and it's really the little things, like yoga
Yeah.
and tea sound silly, but it's really the little things that we have to like hold on to right now to like keep our sanity.
Yeah, to keep our sanity and to keep us healthy, right? Like having a strong immune system, while was always important, even more important now. Cheers, cheers for the tea. I know we did a tea cheers earlier, but boom. I've got some green tea. You've got some chai tea. Chai rhymes with shy. Any coincidence there?
Yes, I did it on purpose. I only drink chai.
You only drink chai. Chai. Okay,
Very
so
Starbucks.
circling back to your role and your work, what was it like as this was all breaking out in New York? What was it like running the program and communicating to the founders?
So when this first kind of broke out in New York, we were in the 7th week of our 10-week program.
Mm,
So we work solely with international founders.
right,
And for them and for the program, this was a huge blow because some of them had to go back to their home countries. Some of them could not even go back to their home countries because the borders closed, and a million and one different issues. And that's just personal, but also on the professional level, on their business level. All of a sudden, they had very, very different priorities of just keeping things afloat.
right.
Um, and all these other problems that have come up because of these bizarre circumstances. So we actually had to pause the program in the 7th week,
Mm,
and we continued certain things. So we continued like our one-on-one meetings with the founders on a weekly basis virtually, and some of the group things we were able to continue for a bit. Actually, until the 10th week, we were able to do some of the programming virtually, but officially we paused the program, and we're allowing the participants to make up the weeks that they missed in upcoming programs.
mm. Wow, that's a great approach. That's admirable that you were able to keep giving them support, and then also, recognize that this was time lost, and they'll be able to get it back once this is hopefully over. So I think that's amazing, and that actually answered a couple future questions that I had for you. So you beat me there. How many of the founders did go home? All of them by the end of the program, of course, but half.
Yeah, half of the, so we had founders from the UK, India, Tunisia, Mauritius, Denmark, and France in our program. And half of them had to go back to their home countries. Half of them stayed in New York, but not under their own desires. They were forced to stay in New York because they couldn't return to
Right.
their home country.
Have they been able to go back since the end of the program, or is because of the travel restrictions they're still
Yeah,
here?
one of them was able to. So now 4 of the 6 are in their home countries. 2 of them are still still stuck in New York, which in any other circumstance would have probably been very nice and fun, but they're stuck in, in between four walls. So
I know. I can't imagine. I'm sure it's pretty scary for them. I mean, that's really, to be a startup founder alone in the greatest city on earth, but the epicenter of this pandemic. I mean, that's very frightening. I'm solo in the city right now, but at least this is where I'm from, so it's not. My parents went upstate to the Adirondacks, which is a more isolated part. I could have gone with them. There were pros and cons to going and not going. I love them. They're gonna watch this, so only good things. But I don't know. I felt for my own sanity, I needed the space and a better internet connection, amongst other things. So, in a previous episode, 2 episodes ago, I had a friend of mine on who is actually starting a company, his own startup, and he's still in a pre-product phase, so he's not too impacted, and he's able to keep doing research and development and working on these products. I'm wondering, do you think maybe now is a good time for companies to put the brakes on selling and pushing and just maybe go over some of their processes and products and try to review and revise?
Well, it really depends on the company. It depends what industry you're in. So some industries are really thriving right now. Any industry that has to do with remote work or remote education, really anything remote, is thriving right now.
Yeah.
That said, I think we should kind of rephrase the word selling, because nobody wants to be a profiteer in this moment. It's morally bad.
Yeah.
And it looks bad on your company. So I wouldn't say selling, but I would say definitely adjusting their value proposition to have a more COVID-19 centric lens, or to have one lens that is COVID-19 centric in addition to their normal value proposition.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I know for some of those companies that, I don't know, there's capitalism has created a market where we're trying to sell and we're trying to push and we're trying to grow our company. I feel like, yeah, that's exactly what you're saying. Now is not the time to be doing that. It's a little morally bankrupt, and it's better to shift and to adjust and reevaluate, I think.
Yeah, but it is a good time to reach out to your customer base, to reach out to your audience, to let them know that you're here to support them and to adjust your offering in order to support them. So for example, at NUMA, we have an in-person accelerator that we really pride ourselves in, this whole very tangible in-person program. And now we're also adjusting our programming to be virtual and to target more early stage startups. So it's important to use what you already have and just adapt it to what's going on today. And that's relevant no matter what's going on. But right now, a lot of people, we all need to support each other, and we all can support each other in our own way.
That's right. And we should, that's part of it's a beautiful way to put it. It's part of the reason I've been doing this program, is to try to support each other, try to talk to people, for my own sake, because thank you. A little selfishly for my own sake, because I'm alone and I need communication, otherwise I'll deteriorate. But also because, as you said, it's a great time to be reaching out and to forge better bonds that will hopefully last after this is over, right? We can, I've talked to some people who say they're more in touch with their friends and family now than they ever were. So
Oh, I definitely am.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
I'm living with them.
So yeah, that's a beautiful thing. You mentioned some things that were in your article about how to be there for your startup in a time like this, which I thought was great. I also, within that, read some of Julia's article, who is the director of the program, also my former coworker, and she had a list of aid that's being offered by different countries. I'm wondering, are there any countries that stick out to you that you have done a particularly good job supporting their startups?
Are there any companies that we've done a good job supporting.
No, are there any countries in particular that have done a good job offering aid to their startups?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a plethora of resources out there. There's almost too many resources out there, and I don't even know if anybody's reading these. Like, we created a page of resources, and we spent a lot of time researching these resources, and we update it every single week. But there's just so much noise.
Right.
So yes, I think there's lots of aid out there, but it's really hard to sort through it all, and then everything becomes super bureaucratic. So is it even doing anything? That's a bigger cycle. That's a bigger question.
True. That's a great question to explore, though. How does we're always thinking about cutting through the noise. How do we get our great resources in front of the people who need it? Because that's the worst thing, is when there's a great opportunity out there that can help that doesn't get utilized just because people aren't aware of it or are able to access it.
Yeah. And it's true also, with the tools that we're using. So right now that we're creating a virtual accelerator program, we are also researching which tools we can use to make the program as effective as possible. And there's so many tools out there. And because there's so many, we're just relying on the top 5. But that's really unfortunate, because I'm sure there's other really great tools out there. And I've been receiving emails with all these great tools, but too much noise.
Yeah. It's impossible.
Including the noise that's coming from there. Do you not hear it?
I heard it a smidge a couple times, but don't worry about it.
Okay.
You're fine. I'm wearing my NUMA t-shirt, actually. I got my NUMA pride on.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Very exciting. So how about, I know you work on the startup end and not the other end of the business, but how has the corporate leadership end gone? What's up in terms of conferences that were supposed to happen? Are there virtual conferences, or what's up?
So we have an innovation breakfast series that has now become virtual. In addition, we do the training modules, kind of like what I did this morning that you did not show up for. So yes, we're transitioning everything that we can to virtual.
Okay, that's fair. And what's the situation with the office in the city? Are you guys were still at the alley, the co-working space?
Yes. So we before we started working remote 6 weeks ago.
Crazy.
Really long time ago, we were working in the alley, and slowly everybody was starting to just not show up even before they closed it officially.
Right.
But the alley has been amazing in supporting us and in sending us all these resources and having their own webinars and connecting the community. So really, I tip my hat, my imaginary hat. It's this big.
Yeah, sombrero you got on over.
Tipping my hat to the alley for a really great job, well done.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that, because that seems to be the next big upcoming crisis within this, is that rent in New York, and what landlords are going to do. Like, will there be a universal law put down, or is it just some people are going to get squeezed? Any other thoughts regarding COVID, regarding your experience with it? I mean, you seem to be holding up pretty well despite being busy and in a house with a lot of people. Sorry, I know it froze for a second.
I just had a technical problem.
Yeah.
I didn't use my signal. Ruben and I came up with a signal to go like this when we have tech problems. I didn't use it.
We didn't use it, but but basically, I'm just wondering, a final thoughts of yours. I'm happy to go more. That's all the questions I have for you regarding the program. You've been very forthright. I don't want to, dig into confidential information. So I'm wondering, you seem to be holding up pretty well. You have good practices in place. What's something maybe other people can do to sort of model that perseverance?
What can they do to model it? Well, if it looks like I'm doing a good job,
yeah,
then I'm glad that it looks that way. I don't know. What can people model? People don't need to model. We all need to like learn from each other and just support each other. And, you know, we're just kind of fake it till you make it right now.
Mm,
And it's lots of trial and error. And I kind of like that it's trial and error. Like nothing has to be perfect right now.
right.
Like even web series, webinars, because we're just transitioning into this new world, we're allowed to make mistakes, and people are being very accepting of mistakes and, you know, technical problems and, you know, figuring out how to navigate this time. So I really like that we're being so kind to one another.
Yeah.
And I hope that we can implement this, you know, once COVID-19 passes. I hope there are many things that we should be implementing after COVID-19 passes. So there's a silver lining to it all.
I think that is
Except
wonderfully.
this is obviously an awful crisis, and I hope it ends super soon. And I never, like, you know what I mean, though.
You're right. You have to balance the two. You have to balance the existential dread of it all, the facts on the ground, right? The realist approach to what's going on, and then also you personally and your own perseverance and, you know, the inner genetic drive to continue to prosper and to hopefully spread, you know, have children and spread your genes and live a long fruitful life. Like it's this crazy balance that we're all going through. And I think, you know, hopefully through this program and also just in people's daily lives, they're able to just take some time out and internalize it. Like don't feel the pressure to always, you know, try to bring your best. Like yes, your best is great, but it's okay to feel the worst sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
take a load off. Well, Shai, you have been wonderful. I want to thank you for being on the program and being so thoughtful and telling us so much about this. It was very interesting to hear.
Thank you so much for having me on your program.
Anything in particular I should put in the comments? An article, I'll put your article about startups, and, you know, I can throw Julia's in there too. Is there any more information that NUMA's putting out that I should tell the people about?
Yeah. So we have our blog, and we have our remote webinars, and yeah.
Cool. I'll get the links to those and I'll put those down below.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Shai. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay sane, and hopefully I can see you soon sometime in New York.
Stay healthy and sane.
Yes, wash those hands.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.